This podcast may contain themes that are not appropriate for younger ears. Sorry, kids. Listener discretion advised.
We are here in the heart of the Big Apple in Manhattan, and it's right around Christmas time, which is a magical time to be here. We just walked down 34th Street and saw where the miracle happened. We're going to go around, we're going to interview some of the New Yorkers and ask people a couple of questions about the election and what they want to see happen in the city. So let's go out to the streets and see what we get. Excuse me, pigeons. Pigeons? Can I interview you real quick? Can I ask you a question?
I'm getting paid for this? All right, no. You're getting paid.
It's brisk. So you live in the city.
Born and raised.
I'm here 84 years.
I'm not from New York, though.
I don't know anything. There you go.
That was for the meal.
This right here you're talking about?
Yes, we voted for the meal.
Is smiling your favorite?
What do I think? Well,
Pigeons, hello? Will any of you be interviewed? They didn't have much to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep your arms and legs inside the car at all times, cause we're going there. Taboo topics are back on the table.
Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. We are here in New York City, and it's actually right around Christmas time, which is my favorite time to be in the city. And we're here at Silver Sound Studios, friends of the podcast who've worked on lots of episodes, and a returning guest, one of my favorite people, Mr. Corey Choi.
I wasn't going to look directly to camera to introduce myself, but hey, I'm a big fan of the pod, and it's kind of cool to be a guest on it. So it's an honor. Thank you.
And, because we're all about helping small businesses and collabing with each other, plug the hell out of Silver Sound for a second.
Well, Silver Sound is Emmy Award-winning studio. It's right in the heart of Manhattan, and we've been around for 20 years now, which is crazy to say, half my life. And what we're known for is when big shots want to do big things and they need someone who can think outside the box. And just the standard way of doing things just isn't cutting it anymore. They'll call us up, and they know that we're always looking for new ways to do things, but most importantly, the story. Everything we do supports the story you're trying to tell, and we're very excited to explore new ways to do it. So one of the things that we were kind of on the indie scene got us a little bit ahead of the curve was, films were all shooting on magnetic tape for sound. It was on 1/4-inch tape. And, you go on the subway, you put down your tape by accident, it all gets washed out, gets erased, and you're like, And it's also all single track, so whoever's doing the mixing has to be really, really talented because they got to mix it all down to mono. We look at the music industry, and we're like, they're using computers, consumer computers, and these kind of portable interfaces to do multiple tracks so that you can still do a mix track, but we were kind of the first people to really take this lightweight music industry technology and bring it to New York indie film. And then when the filmmakers who were kind of at first skeptical because they were set in their ways saw oh my gosh, you can separate the different mics onto separate tracks, and if my actor doesn't speak loud enough, you can fix that later. That's kind of what began to set us apart when we first got started. And from there, we've always really enjoyed. Doesn't matter if it's industry standard. It matters if it does what you want it to do.
We've talked about it on the show before. You've bailed me out of a couple of very hairy situations with your guys' tools and skills and experience more than anything. As somebody who comes from the industry of the visual media, the one thing I learned a long time ago was if you're not paying attention to the audio and the sound design, then it doesn't matter how nice it looks. And so I have such an affinity for and appreciation for people who do what you guys do here.
And that's why we're so copacetic, right? Because we were just talking about how I don't understand what light is. I know I need it.
Yeah.
I know it makes things look good.
But you can't be amazing at everything. You have to learn. You have to learn one or two things, nail them, know enough to be dangerous, but know how to get the right people who know how to do that shit. And that's what you do. That's how you build a good team. And that's why I love collabing, for sure with you and your guys here.
Thanks, man.
So somebody we're going to hear on the mic a lot coming up, and you especially, is your new mayor. You campaigned for him, right? You did some knocking on doors and things like that.
Yeah, I canvassed for Zoran Mamdani, and it was very exciting. I brought my kids, and the experience was amazing. We're in Bed-Stuy, and we get there, and Jabari Brisport, who's our representative, shows up. I'm like, wow, that's cool, and because he'd been at our garden Halloween party before. He's a great guy. I see him a lot, and I'm like, wow, Jabari's here to come on canvassing with us. That's amazing. And then like 2 seconds later, Zoran shows up, and the first thing he does is he shows up. He sees my son, walks up to my son, and shakes his hand. The 4-year-old is the first person that he says hello to. There were no cameras on him. It wasn't like, this is like a politicians kissing babies moment. This is literally, he was just like, oh, hey, I'm so glad you're here. And
because he's a parent too, right?
No, he's not. He's not.
Oh, I thought he was. Okay.
He just got married. He just got married, right before.
And I love his wife stirred up some interest because she's a good looking lady.
She's very fashionable. They're both very smart. He's very they're lovable New York nerds, art nerds, both of them. And the thing about it is he is just a genuine, nice New Yorker who loves the city.
Yeah.
That's what makes it exciting to me. He's just a genuinely nice guy who cares about this city, lives in this city, wants to be in this city.
Yeah.
You look at the other candidates and it's like, Cuomo, you don't even want to be here.
Yeah.
Like you're not comfortable. Listen, man, just go somewhere where you can be comfortable. This is not where you want to be.
So as an outsider looking in, what is it that you think a lot of people don't see that as a New Yorker you see about the candidate, the election, and the race that ensued?
So what I would say, at least from my perspective as a New Yorker to folks outside of the city, that they might not see, I don't know, because I don't live, I got a New York City perspective, but
that's what I want, though. That's perfect.
But the thing about Zoran is he seems to genuinely, like I just said, he just seems to genuinely like the city. He makes a point to check out all the different parts of the city. He doesn't blow smoke up anyone's ass. Like if he's got a disagreement with someone, he'll be very polite. He'll be very friendly.
Like his meeting with Trump. They're like, do you think Trump is a fascist? And he was trying to be polite. He wasn't dancing around it. He might not be somebody I like. He's still our president. I'm still going to treat him with civility. And Trump was infatuated with him, which was...
Well, that speaks to Zoran's skill, though. That's the thing. He's a genuine person. He's like, I'm going to go into this meeting with Trump to advocate for the city.
But not smarmy.
No.
Right? Not... I'm trying to charm you because I need something from you.
No, he is like, I'm here because we have to work together, and I'm the mayor of, the largest city in America, and we're gonna have to work together, and I'm here to advocate for the city. He's very straightforward. Everything he does, he's very straightforward about his purpose. He's here. Mm-hmm. I'm here to advocate for the people who live in New York City and make their lives better. Eric Adams is like, I'm here to have fun and look cool and, see what I can pal around with. You can tell Eric Adams has a lot of fun being mayor, but he doesn't particularly care about every New Yorker. He cares about the New Yorkers he knows. He cares deeply about the New Yorkers he knows. But that's okay if you're just representing
That's modern politics.
like a small part of New York. No, because he was like
no, but wouldn't you say that represents a lot of, I don't want to say all, that represents a lot of the us versus them mentality and rhetoric that we hear, especially at the federal level. You have folks who demonize entire sections of the country and entire parts of their constituents. And that's the thing that's always gotten me is you represent everybody. You're not allowed to pick sides and say, I like you, but fuck you over here.
yeah, actually,
But they do say those things.
yes. And actually, I'll tell you what it is from someone inside, and you just sparked it exactly why I loved Mamdani so much. And this may come as a shock to people because they don't hear this. I'm certain they don't hear, because even some New Yorkers don't hear this. Is, I'm Jewish, and one of the things that Mamdani made like central part of his campaign was to involve the Jewish community as not just like lip service, like, oh, hey, I'm here for the Jews. No, he came to synagogues. He worked with Brad Landner, who's also Jewish. And remember, they were running against each other in the primary, but they cross-endorsed and did a lot of co-campaigning. And I actually think a lot of what helped push Zoran over the edge to such a commanding victory in the primary was that Brad Landner enthusiastically, unabashedly said, vote for me and Zoran, put me in one and put Zoran number two. And Zoran said the same thing, like, we're cross-endorsing here. And you had someone who's going to a synagogue every single week, speaking to the congregations, asking them to come join his campaign. And really, truly, I felt so disrespected by Eric Adams because after he didn't even run in the primary, first of all, he made a new political party called Fighting Anti-Semitism. But it was this weird doublespeak where he was really just saying, I'm going to take your faith. I'm going to take your faith. I'm going to twist it, and I'm going to use it for my personal gain. And there's nothing more disgusting and anti-Semitic than taking my faith and twisting it and using it immorally.
Yeah.
So Zoran, who's a Muslim, was actually running on a platform that he lived my shared moral values.
Yeah.
So his platform and his way of living, honestly, is more copacetic with my Jewish values than what Eric Adams or what Cuomo was doing, which is even more disgusting. Cuomo takes a international war criminal, Netanyahu, and says, I'm going to defend him in the International Criminal Court. This guy who has just been pushing for the extermination of the Palestinian people. I'm Jewish. A lot of my family didn't make it, way back. Good number of cousins didn't make it out of the Holocaust. We see modern day state of Israel committing a Holocaust against the Palestinian people.
It's a genocide, yeah.
A genocide, but it's, a Holocaust, a genocide against the Palestinian people. And you're seeing someone like Cuomo calling me, he's not even Jewish. He's calling me.
No, but he was
people,
trying to get the Jewish vote.
But he's using my religion as a weapon.
Oh yeah. Well,
so
hey buddy, welcome to the club. As somebody raised in the Christian church, the Republican Party, they have taken hostage what should be the faith, but it's all just dogma. And that's what the Zionism and Israel, that's what's beautiful about this election. First of all, we have the November election come up. And, New York was a buzz, but like the rest of the country, everyone's like, who knows? It is impossible to guess what's going to happen. But like the last presidential election, I think was a surprise to most people. But then you have Abigail Spanberger, who is now the
governor,
Virginia. So the new governor of Virginia, a woman, somebody who people thought there's no way, Mikey Sherrill, won against a Trump, endorsed. I think both of them were Trump endorsed people. And then Mamdani beating Cuomo not only in the primaries, which was fantastic, then Trump backs him, which that was surprising to me. And maybe that shows the ignorance of being outside the city.
Can I just point something out real quick, though?
Yeah.
Because as an city insider, you would actually have to note there was a female competitor to whoever's Winsome Earls. Was she in Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
She was not backed by Trump.
Oh.
She tried to hold on to Trump. But you'll notice, and I haven't done a whole lot of research, so I could be wrong, but at least from my just like observing, Trump doesn't tend to endorse women.
No, of course not.
But you look
Wait,
at
are
it,
you saying he might be sexist?
yeah, well, here's this woman going all in on him. She's a woman of color.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, his former press secretary, the minute they show even the tiniest little bit of not even people who turned on him, people are still trying to be on his team, but don't fall exactly in line. The women and the minorities get burned that much faster. Again, this is not my opinion. This is just like if you look at the history of the people. Now, he turns on everybody who eventually steps out of line with him. Mike Pence, people wanted to hang him at the insurrection. But like women is even faster. You have women who didn't even say anything against Trump, who fully supported him, but they presented data in a news interview that he didn't like, and he was like, "She's an idiot."
So you look at the race. You do have to just kind of say in this latest Tennessee election where it was a lot closer than anybody thought. Trump went all in against the Democratic, candidate Afton, who's a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and he went ahead and endorsed and did several tele rallies and went all in on her white male opponent. But in Virginia, when Abigail Spanberger is up against a woman of color, you'll notice he couldn't do it.
Well, that may have been the smartest thing I've seen Trump do, because if you watched any of the debates, that woman, that was one of those people who I feel bad for black women. I already feel bad for the average black woman.
You feel bad for them in the way they're treated badly just by society here?
By society. They're the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to capitalism and the way that there's already a power dynamic and power differential between men and women, but black women get the racism and sexism and everything else. But that woman got up there and represented, you want to see a black female succeed, and she was one of the most ignorant human beings. You heard what she said, that's not...
Her whole platform was anti-trans, hatred.
Yeah, and they were like, that's discrimination. She goes, that's not discrimination.
Yeah,
that was mind-blowing.
She was a pretty unfortunate candidate. That's true.
Yes.
But back to Mamdani, and the thing that is kind of amazing. So not only is he clearly very genuine and smart and nice,
Mm-hmm.
and actually cares about the city, has a moral barometer, just is willing to walk the talk. He went on
Mm-hmm.
a hunger strike to help cabbies, because the city really threw. I don't think people outside of the city really know too much about medallions for cab drivers.
Right.
Do you know the whole situation?
Not the entire one, but I've heard
The basics are
about
before
over the
Uber
years.
and Lyft. If you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get a leg up, if you came to this country, or you're just you're trying to go upward mobility, one of the ways to do it was to become a cab driver.
Right.
But you needed something called a medallion to be a licensed driver. And what would happen was there's only a certain amount of medallions. They're very valuable. There was a whole market on them. So people would have a medallion and they would license it out to different people. You can use my medallion, but you have to pay me a monthly rent.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
And so you'd have these people who just collect medallions and stuff. But if you were able to buy your own medallion, this was this promise that you were going, it's like buying a house.
Yeah.
You're going to have generational wealth where you can give this thing to. So the city had been inflating the price of the medallion, and they convinced a lot of cab drivers to basically go into mortgage debt, but it's not protected like a house. So this medallion costs $1 million, $1.5 million. They get their life savings. They put themselves, they get all
Is
the
that
roses.
how much that they were charging?
million and a half to buy a medallion.
Oh wow, that's
And so
ridiculous.
these cab drivers
Even
would-
wait, but if you're a independent
Yes.
contractor, not every single cab out there would have to have it, right?
every single cab I think had to have a medallion associated.
But some of them, the company, I assume, would pay for it, or
the company would pay. They would lease it out to different cab drivers. But if you wanted to have your ticket to the middle class, if you owned
the bottom of the middle class, right?
you own the medallion, that was like transformational, right? So a lot of people sold their life savings, did everything. They got these medallions, and then
They realize that the American dream is a sham.
because the city all of a sudden said, we're going to let unlimited people drive cabs without a medallion. It's called Uber and Lyft.
Yeah,
They don't have to have medallions because they're technically a limousine service.
right.
And all of a sudden, the medallions have no value. These people they're in massive amounts of debts, and they've ruined their whole lives. And they were just like, well, see ya. What Zoran did was said, these people need debt relief. And he was willing to, as an assembly member, literally go on a hunger strike because some of these cabbies were committing suicide. But he wasn't running for anything. He had already won. So he wasn't trying to draw attention to himself. He was drawing attention to the cab drivers, which is where it should be.
Yeah.
Right? The thing is, like, Zoran will draw attention to the situation and the people that need the help, and he'll use his platform to do it.
Yeah. What was it?
But Eric Adams will make that whole thing about himself.
Oh, so he's a politician.
Cuomo will make everything about himself.
Yeah.
Zoran, obviously, enjoys like being in the political world, but you can tell
Because he's a public servant, not because of the fame or the eyes or the limelight.
I think he's a true public servant.
Yeah. And they're rare, but we're seeing a rise in them again, which is hopeful. You know, when you have a public servant, they are serving how many millions of people live in New York City?
Like 8 million people.
He is serving 8 million people who may or may not even like him or appreciate it, and that is public service. And that's why there needs to be term limits on everything, not just governors and mayors.
Everything.
And everything. What do you think the average New Yorker's opinion was on his take on the medallions? Were they supportive of it, or are people in the zero-sum game where they're like, who cares about these cab drivers? I have my own mortgage.
I'm just going to say this. A lot of people think there's an average New Yorker, and I don't think there is.
I realize you can't speak for all New Yorkers.
I think part of what makes New York so amazing to live in,
It's borough to borough, door to door.
there are definitely borough and neighborhoods that are vastly different, but there are places where there are agreements.
Sure.
And I think Zoran focused on the areas of agreement in his campaign,
Yeah.
and everyone across the board except for, and I will say, the only place where you're not going to have agreement is with the billionaire class.
Well, yeah, of course.
No, but that is, you're in New York City, and there's a surprisingly large amount of billionaires here, but
that's the beautiful thing about democracy is because everyone's all about capitalism. And I'm not saying capitalism is horrible. It's people are inherently greedy, which of course
that's why I love
exploits
democratic
it.
socialism, because
Yeah.
it embraces capitalism, but with guardrails.
Yeah, and
Elizabeth
and the
Warren-
whole thing of democracy is that billionaire, while he might own the large lion's share of the wealth, he still only gets one vote. And that's what makes democracy beautiful.
That you are correct about that. And so, with the exception of the billionaire class in New York City, I would say across the board, Zoran's first thing that he is going to really try to implement, in my opinion, is universal child care.
Yeah, and that affects everybody across this country, and it is something that I think we're going to see a lot more candidates pushing for. Because yes, it's important in the big city, but even in small town Ohio.
Let's just talk about personal experience here. New York City is an amazing place to live because we have universal 3K. I don't think people know that. Before Zora and I even got here, we have universal 3K.
3K?
3K. I have a 4-year-old son, okay? He's 4.5 years old. He is in his second year of school, free public education. In his second year, he's in a French immersion class. And his first year, he had an amazing teacher who taught him yoga, and they're exploring. And it was, age appropriate. He was 3 years old, and it was life-changing for me. I talked to my friends in Maryland. I talked to my friends in Louisiana, and they're like, man, I got to come up with like 15 grand.
A huge part of these people's living expenses.
Yeah, if you're making 45 grand a year and you got to come up with 15 grand to make sure that you've got childcare, that's 1/3 of your income. So imagine how amazing it was for me. My 4-year-old son has had 2 years, 3K. He's now in 4K. We are basically saving, and in New York State, it's probably more expensive. Let's say it's 20 grand.
You're probably saving, yeah.
We're saving between 30 and 50 grand.
Yep.
And that's life-changing for me and my wife. Now imagine every single New Yorker is going to have that ability, 3K, pre-K, without Mamdani. So universal child care for people who are parents. The next thing he's talking about is freezing the rent on rent-stabilized buildings. And people are like, oh, well, it's just on rent-controlled or rent-stabilized buildings. There's like, I think 1 in 8 New Yorkers. I think there's like 2 million units, or I don't know the stats, but like it's some massive amount. There's like over 1 million people who have these apartments. And if they're rent-stabilized and you freeze that rent, because one of the things that just ruins your life, and I'm just constantly think about, and like everybody in New York, it's like, how am I going to pay rent if it just goes up constantly?
Yeah.
People say, oh, and people say
cost of living keeps rising across the country, but our income isn't moving at that rate whatsoever.
We don't get a 5% bump in pay every year as freelancers.
Even as people just out in the world.
Yeah,
5% bump? No.
People are not getting a 5% bump, but they are getting charged 3 to 5% more on their rent every single year.
Well,
so that's the true inflation, is how much did your rent go up?
Right.
So when somebody says, I don't know if in Ohio, but someone told me this year, like, hey, I've been in the same place 5 years. They're raising my rent by $1,000 a month.
That's wild. I mean, Cleveland, of course, is a city, but, even outside the city, like rent is getting ridiculous. I don't know how most people make it. I've been fortunate that my career has provided me with enough of a safety net that I will always be okay. I have enough skills in my arsenal, right? But like, I didn't earn all that. Some of it is who raised me. Some of it's my education that I was able to afford. Some of it, So like I realize the privilege I've had, and it just blows my mind on how some people make it.
So I'm 40, and I think we share a generational privilege that people
We were at the tail end.
We have generational privilege that folks who are in their 20s right now
will never have.
Don't have, because we were in a zone where the rent was about half of what it is now.
Cost of living was so tiny. You didn't have smartphones when we started out. You just had cell phones. And half the country still didn't have a cell phone, right? So like you didn't have to worry about you may have had to have internet, but your Wi-Fi and everything else, like you were doing bare basics. You and I are essentially cuspers. You're at the tail end of the Zennials, and we caught the tail end of the American dream. And while it makes us nostalgic and sad, which is why a lot of people why some of us are still perpetual 14-year-olds, on the other side of it is it gives us much more gratitude about what we've actually accomplished, which is why you and I can sit here and say, well, work harder, you little lazy bitch. It's not about that.
No, it's not.
We had the luxury of growing up at the time that
we had this kind of ability. And you look even further back, right? It used to be like, so-and-so moved to the city. They worked real hard for 2 years. They got themselves a house. Can you imagine someone saying, oh, yeah, I moved to Cleveland. I worked really, really hard. 2 years later, I just bought my house. Like, is that even possible anymore?
When I got divorced a couple years ago, I sold my house, and the price I sold it for was a great to get the money, but I was like, I couldn't afford to live in my own home now.
Right?
I like not just your mortgage costs, but the interest rates on the mortgages too. And I'm like, I'd be paying a third more, even with a huge down payment. It's insane. So let me real quick. You had mentioned there is no prototype New Yorker. You guys run the gamut. So we went out to the streets of New York to take a temperature and see what other people thought the election, what they hope to see with the new mayor, and what their hopes are for the city in general. So let's take a look at some of those interviews. How do you feel about Mamdani winning the election?
I like him. Yeah, of course. I'm liberal. That is one thing at my age. I'm 84. I'm an endangered species.
His views and his policies, I didn't necessarily agree with because I don't think that they're that sustainable. I think they're very ambitious, but that's not to say that I'm not hopeful about it.
I think it's great. I'm an immigrant. I'm brown. It was actually amazing to kind of see the representation from the city. And I think it's kind of cool. Like, we need some change. So, yeah.
He has a good idea of what a lot of New Yorkers want from what I've seen and through the people I've met.
He's such a sign of hope. But there are a lot of really wealthy people here who are not happy about it, which is a typical divide, But everyone I know is thrilled.
Before the elections, he wasn't here. He passed here 4 times. Here, he passed here 4 times. Shook my hand, shook a couple of the guys' hands, spoke to us. I was born in Africa. I'm a naturalized American. I've been in America 45 years. I came here when I was 22. So I have a lot in common with him.
I'm not usually for politicians, but he seems pretty lit, pretty awesome.
And I am very hopeful for everything that he's gonna do.
I feel like he's coming from the right place to be able to make this city better for working class people and even people who might be in poverty or struggling right now, to make this place more affordable, because it really is it's a great city, but I don't think anybody should be priced out of living.
He seems to love the city. He seems to love people. Everyone on their campaign trail sounds like they're going to fix everything for everyone, but I think in general we all have high hopes. He's a different kind of person than what we're used to. He's not a businessman type.
What was the vibe here in the city during the election season? It looked like there was a lot of excitement going on.
Absolutely. It was exciting from the very beginning, and I happen to love his mother, so, a lot of us figured, well, he's an artist child. She's a great filmmaker.
Definitely, a lot of people were super excited, had high energy.
It was definitely kind of electric, especially in certain parts more than others, but you could definitely see there was a lot of support for Mamdani's campaign. It feels like there's finally someone from our generation that actually is speaking truthfully to the ideals that we have for making our way of life and our communities better than they can be right now, and also sort of standing up to all this corporate influence and sort of establishment politics that a lot of people are very tired of, sort of dictating the way that we live our lives, and we just want something that's better for everybody, not just, a small percentage or just for wealthier, well-to-do people.
So what's your hope for the future? What do you want to see fixed in New York City?
Well, as a woman, I definitely am hoping for, safety on the streets. It's really not fun not getting to walk with your headphones in broad daylight and being scared that something's going to happen. That's my main concern as a resident here. And obviously inflation and the prices are kind of crazy, so I'm curious to see what he's going to do with that.
Cheap groceries, please.
The other thing is I would like public transit to be a little better, a little safer, also more affordable. I feel like we invest too much in stopping people from evading the fare, where I feel like we should just find a way to just make it so people don't feel that they should have to do that.
I definitely think like public transportation safety should be a priority with like the subways and stuff. I feel like that's a little bit out of control.
I think people need to change. I really do. I think people need to think about each other instead of themselves. I think people need to care when they see homeless people and people who need mental health care. I think we need to stop being so only concerned with ourselves. And likewise with the people who are making a profit off of the misery of other people.
You know, I was walking on 6th Avenue in October, and a guy hit me on the back of the head and then ran away and broke my eyeglasses. So I think we should do something, although I don't know, because I'm a big fan of civil liberties, what you can do about the walking wounded. Yeah, the man was obviously crazy. This is a quality of life issue. I never had that in all the years I'm living in the city, you know.
Obviously, everything's really expensive. Do I think he's going to fix it all? No. But I think some of this is the objective and the thought behind it, I think is really important, because if we don't try...
Definitely the cost of living is a bit high.
There is obviously stark differences, right, with people like me that are able to work here and, you know, and maybe afford some of the things, but then also seeing kind of the polarization. So I think that is, you know, that would be really good to see if we can kind of bridge that gap a little bit more.
I've been rooting for Mamdani for a while, so I'm excited to see what 2026 will bring us with his administration.
So, of course, there's a variety of answers, and even some of the people that we've just talked to who weren't in any of the footage. The two main themes, and one you spoke to, which is cost of living, trying to make things more affordable. And the other big one that people talked about is making New York safer. So what do you think about that?
I'm super fucking excited about it. You can't have, and I think about this all the time, it doesn't matter to me personally how much groceries cost if I walk outside my door and there's a risk of a fucking masked thug with a machine gun, like threatening my family, some ICE motherfucker being like, I'm gonna hurt you, or some like, and it doesn't matter if it's ICE, doesn't matter if it's like FBI or NYPD.
Well,
if you've got some asshole or a gang member.
I was going to say that's the issue is some of the political answers that people have had to violence is let's just send in the National Guard.
Well, that's so fucked up for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Yes, safety is absolutely important to my life. Everybody wants to have just fucking basics, right? You can't get safety is first. And so when you have the federal government making our lives unsafe, because that is what they are doing, and then they're taking the second pillar and they're trying to take away the fucking food, and your third pillar trying to take away your money. When you have the federal government trying to take the basics away from your life, it becomes personal.
So then what's the answer? How do we fix it without the government making it more dangerous?
Well, the government can be, politics is, and I love his slogan, politics is no longer something that's done to us, it's something that we do. And New Yorkers getting involved in politics is big because it allows us to set the rules that we live by. So part of what Mamdani is going to do is make the Department of I forget it. It's separating. It was like community safety, Department of Community Safety, where you take an entire section of mental health calls, and he's taking it out of the police force. He's making a new Department of Community Safety, where people are going to respond to mental health calls and homelessness, not with some guy with a gun who's trained to beat people up, but with a social worker.
Wait, do you mean a cop who's trained to take down bad guys wearing a bulletproof vest with several weapons on him isn't the first person you want coming to you if you're having a panic attack?
No. Do you know how many people die just because there's a gun there? Because you're
Not just that. Do you know how many people die because they do call 911 and there isn't anything that they can do or provide for them because those people, and I'm not saying there's something wrong with the 911 service as a whole when it comes to that. They're not equipped for it.
No,
they're
and
not
the cops,
trained
cops
for
are
it.
getting set up too because
They're not trained for it. They don't have the resources for it. Like it is, as he says, and as we're seeing across the country, and some of the people we just interviewed a few episodes ago, it is a totally different skill set and is something that needs resources that the government shies away from because it's like, well, yeah, but like that's a totally different issue.
But it is also totally different. It is a totally different issue.
No,
than
it's
policing.
a totally different issue. They divide it as far as like, well, these people are just fucked up.
That's true. Also,
that is
those people who you talking about, right? It's a class warfare. It's class warfare.
100%. And that's why him winning and beating Cuomo of all people twice.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was a beautiful thing to watch, and it made me hopeful for my state. It made me hopeful for the country. And this is not I mean, the audience knows where I fall on the spectrum, but this is also not a political statement of a red versus blue. This is 100% a statement of we need to go back to the era of public service. And we need to demand that the government works for us, not the other way around.
Yes. And so Mamdani with safety is like, hey, why don't we give this resources that people actually need to be safe? And he's not about taking away resources from anyone. He's about giving people the right training and resources they need.
And I want to say, this could have started, this movement across the country could have started 5 years ago. The problem was the rhetoric. The movement at the core of defunding the police was that. But because it was such an aggressive, it sounded
the title. It was the title.
It sounded like NWA. It was fuck the police is what people thought it was. And there were people, of course, on that side, and I understood why. I mean, if I were a black dude in America, I would have felt that same way. But really what it was about was let's take some of that funding away from the police and give it to over here where we can help people with mental health crises, where we can help the homeless, where we can provide a community service where it's not an armed officer coming to the door.
The NYPD is vastly overfunded because they're asked to do such a large scope of things.
Well, and they're buying military-grade weapons.
They're buying
military-grade
weapons, but they're also, for instance, paying millions and millions and millions of dollars to do something. For instance, we had our Caribbean Day Parade, right? And you had thousands and thousands of officers doing full-time overtime in Brooklyn because black people are throwing a party.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I understand the need for security because it's a large city. When you have the Pride Parade, but you have thousands and thousands and thousands of officers putting up corridors where you can't walk. And you start asking yourself, is this about making sure the people are safe who are in this Pride Parade? Or is it about a little bit of a fuck you to LGBTQ community?
And you and I probably both know there's not one answer there, right? I think it's embedded with both.
But again, you just look at the amount and the manner and the amount of money you're spending, the resources, and you think to yourself, well, what if there were community marshals here instead? Who weren't just like have militarized gear and these weird, because there are community police officers, but that's not who came out to, maybe some of them, but like you start seeing like the different sections of the NYPD.
I did love though when there was pride parades going around the country where you did see cops joining in with them and partying.
That's beautiful. And they should.
They should, but to a point, because at the same time, I think it goes to your earlier point of there should be a different service and funding for that, because cops also, for their own protection and for them to work well, need to not be that attainable and associable. So there needs to be a little bit of that old school fear and respect towards police officers, because if you suddenly see them as just your buddy, that's when people, I think, get a little too I think comfortable and friendly with them. And it's like,
I'm gonna push back on you.
Please do.
I think a better or a world I want to live on is where you respect the police, but you don't have to fear them.
When
And
I say fear,
respect
I
has
mean
like a healthy,
fear them because you're breaking the law.
Sure.
And that
I think
like,
there's a respect.
No,
but like,
right now the people who fear the police are not people who are breaking the law. The people who fear ICE are not here illegally most of the time. So like I'm saying fear, not fear as in scared. I'm talking old school respect for our parents kind of fear and respect.
And again, that's where I'm pushing back. I think yes, I think ultimately we're saying the same thing, but I think language is important.
Yes,
and I think taking the word respect and incorporating what you need into it and leaving out fear, to me, have a healthy respect. Like, right, that would still impart the same thing.
If you're a citizen who's not breaking the law, you should see a cop and be like, thank God.
Like, okay.
But if you're a guy who just did something fucked up, you should see a cop and go, oh, shit. But right now, the wrong people are saying, oh, shit, and the other people are going, thank God.
That's right. Like, you know, it says courtesy, professionalism, respect on NYPD, and like they're supposed to serve and protect, right? That's their whole thing. Serve and protect. They should be there to serve and protect, not regulate and dominate.
Oh, you mean like under Giuliani? Sorry, were you?
I was.
How young were you during?
I miss Giuliani.
Yeah, you weren't even voting age, probably.
I miss Giuliani, but I did feel the tail end of stop and frisk in Bed-Stuy. And you'll notice, actually, one thing that I really don't like about Adams and I don't like about Jessica Tisch, who is being retained by Mamdani, by the way, is they very quietly reinstated basically stop and frisk. It's called a living violation. And you said, what the fuck is a living violation? And what a living violation is a quality of life violation. And what it really means is if the NYPD thinks...
Profiling.
Yeah. If the NYPD thinks that you might be affecting quality of life, it's stop and frisk. And they've brought it back.
But isn't that being fought in the courts right now?
Maybe. I do know that I personally felt the effects of living violation when my wife was going to bike for her groceries on a Sunday morning. It's fucking 7:00 in the morning. Nobody's on the street. And she looks both ways and she treats the red light like a stop sign. She stops, she goes through. Cop comes roaring up, gives her a $200 fucking ticket.
Yeah.
That's groceries for the week.
Yeah. That sucks.
And you're like, did you need to do that? You could just say, I see nobody else is here at 7:00 on a Sunday morning. Could you pay attention to the...
Or wait till the traffic gets really busy and then just go through all the red lights like most of the bikes do in the city.
But the point is, they didn't need to go straight to enforcement like that. Now, what's funny is she just got a ticket. The next week, Jessica Tisch said, well, we're actually going to send you to court. We're going to make you go have a court appearance, a desk appearance. And there was an entire month where there were literally thousands of New Yorkers getting sent to a judge for going through a red light on their bike. And that's because living violation. And, you know, Jessica Tisch and Eric Adams, they don't care because they don't have... You know how much it fucks with your life to take a day off of work, to have to go be humiliated in front of a judge and say, yeah, I was going grocery shopping and I treated the red light like a stop sign. You know what I mean? Thousands of New Yorkers had their lives disrupted. So what Mamdani has said is, and I'm very excited about this, you know, we went back to safety and then we went to the bottom line. How many people's lives are going to get totally fucked by losing an entire day of pay while they're trying to go buy groceries? Or they lose an entire day of pay, or maybe more than an entire day of pay.
Yeah, unless you're trying to fight it, obviously. Like, you shouldn't have to do any of that shit.
So point is, like, entire day of pay penalty, a second day of work to go to court. Okay, so now you're losing 2 days of fucking pay. And how many people are paycheck to paycheck anyways? Now, we have the privilege where we're not, because we got 2 people working and we're privileged to where we are. But I can tell you any number of my friends, if they lost 2 days of pay, they might not be able to make rent that. You know, the social safety net has been so smashed by the federal government that I am very heartened to see Mamdani say, you know what? If the federal government is no longer willing to provide, we're going to make sure the city provides.
Yeah.
And you know what?
It's up to the states and the local governments at this point.
The city
it really is
a fucking great place to live.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a better place to live because Mamdani and the people around him and the people he's brought and the policies, not just him, the policies that Mamdani wants to make true in our city are all about just making the city a better, safer, more affordable place to live.
Obviously, I was so happy he won personally, even though it doesn't impact me directly.
But it does, though. It's like a mood, right?
It's a movement, too. But what I'll say is, at the same time, there's part of me that's sad that basic common sense and human decency are such a shock today. But they are.
But you know what?
But
This is going to be the smug me.
Please be.
They're a New York City motherfucking thing. Basic human decency, that's a New York City thing. Like, respect for your fellow man. We can say, you know what? It's a fucking New York City thing. We love and treat people with basic respect. And you know what? When Mamdani made that win, it showed the whole fucking world what I knew in my heart and why. You know, I came to New York when I was 17. I thought I'll be here for a few weeks. I've never left. And it's because I fucking love this city. I love the people in the city. And we have come together to say, despite the whole shitstorm of like Nazism and fascism that has run rampant in our country, we, the 8 million people of New York City, are going to treat people with basic human decency.
And you elected a Muslim.
Yep. A very nice...
But Muslim was used as a pejorative term during the Obama candidacy where people, they were no longer just saying, we heard he might have ties to this or that, or he might be this. It was literally Muslim, as though Muslim equals terrorist.
They use it as a negative adjective.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is so racist. And you saw it in the last election with Trump, where he used Palestinian basically as a synonym for asshole. People used Muslim as
immigrant.
Yeah,
immigrant. Somebody talked about this. They looked at all of his speeches, and anytime he said the word immigrant, he either implied or added literally to the term illegal. Yep. Meaning, whether or not he realized he's doing it,
was very on purpose.
He embedded it in the minds of his listeners and followers and supporters that immigrant equals criminal.
And W and Cheney.
From a felon of how many counts? I mean, criminality is, of course, also subjective, and class, you move up the list when you're...
Yeah, and now he's pardoning, the biggest drug runner. But let's go off that for a second, though. But you look at the W and, like you said, W and Cheney turned Muslim to equal terrorist, and you have Trump trying to turn immigrant to equal illegal. Well, I'm just going to say, I want patriot to mean decent. I want patriotism to be loving. I want patriotism to mean caring for your neighbors.
Which is why I loved during this last election cycle that people started taking back the terms freedom, liberty, patriot, and waving the American flag, because I even felt like the American flag no longer represented most of us for a long time. And now, seeing the pride behind the flag again, and I'm like, yes, we need to take it back.
Let's take our fucking flag back, and let's take patriotism back, because and I'm excited because Mamdani is part of the freedom movement.
And the big thing that people need to understand in a time of disinformation and prideful ignorance is that there is a giant difference between patriot and nationalist. If we can start to let people in on that, when they call themselves a patriot, it takes people, especially like me, white, cis, straight, male, privileged background, but even you, to call that out when we see it and go, what you're talking about actually isn't patriotism.
Patriotism means loving your country, but loving your country means loving the people who live in your country with you.
The people. And not loving your country at the expense of other people, even outside the country. To say we're number one, so fuck you, is also not patriotism.
No, it's loving the people around you. Yes.
So before we wrap up, I do want to call to front and center an appreciation for and the true risk of even doing a simple episode like this, because you are a business owner. Yes, you're in New York City, which is leans very blue, always has, right? Or at least most of our lives. But there is a risk, and I talk about this a lot with friends when they ask, oh, well, you're a business owner. Do you want your name? Do you want the business associated with your podcast? And I'm like, first of all, hopefully if you listen to the show, you see I'm objective. Like, I respect you, whoever you are, as long as what you show up with is respect for other humans. You know, if you're someone like, no, we should kill all the Jews. No, I don't respect you, and I think you're a bad person. I'm not going to come after you and try to kill you. But like, no, I'm not with you, bro. But like, I have friends and family who are conservatives, and we can at least have discourse, and we can show respect. And I still call out those microaggressions. I had to do one while on the road this week with some lady saying some nonsense, and I was as polite as I could be. But I'm like, no, that's wrong. That's racist. You know, and it's not a talking down to or scolding, but you are taking a risk being on a show like this, or even putting your voice out there. You're very vocal. Anyone who knows you personally, you're very fucking vocal. You make me seem like an old school conservative sometimes, and I fucking love that about you. Why do you risk possible revenue?
Compromising your moral values and your basic humanity is never a good business decision. And I'm just going to say, when clients want to work with us, when clients want to work with anyone, they want to work with somebody they can trust.
But yeah, and they don't even, most of the time, at least this is what I get on my end. They don't work with Frame One. They want to work with Matt. Yeah. Even if they're not working directly with me the whole time, it's like, you are your business and there is no separation. And with this podcast, me and my business are the holy trinity of my existence.
For me, at least from my perspective, is clients want to work with somebody who they can trust, right? If they're true clients and they want to really build a relationship. Sometimes in business, like, you have something where like an entity wants to just like eat you or use you. But if it's a true relationship, like I'm providing this client with a service and helping them achieve their goal and realize their dreams, they have to trust me, and they have to trust my company, the people who work here. And if you don't have basic human decency, if you're not willing to just do the basics for other people, how can you trust this person to do right for you as a provider of services? You know, if I see that a guy doesn't pay his contractors, or he orders up a whole bunch of work and then stiffs them on the overtime,
which happens a lot more than people would think.
Well, you just look at where the corruption is coming from. Politically. And so I think it's a risk to associate myself with immoral people and corrupt people and greedy people. And so I would say it would be more of a risk for me to associate myself with people who are morally bankrupt and thieves and liars than to do what I'm doing, which is say, I believe in basic human decency, I believe in honesty, and I believe in hard work.
That is a much more in-depth and longer way of saying what I always tell people, which is, my integrity is just not for sale.
But your integrity is a selling point.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
It's not just not for sale. It's a fucking selling point. People go to Matt because they know you have integrity.
But like, if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, I need you to record my record, and it turns out it's like, you know, this guy's singing about hating black people and gays and stuff, they're not going to get the best work out of you anyway, because your passion for that project. I mean, personally, you're like me.
They're not going to get any work out of me. Yeah.
They're not going to get any work. So like, somebody's like, well, you're telling me if Trump came and was like, make me a campaign ad, I'd be like, no, I can't.
Actually have to tell you, this is just a really funny story from the first Trump presidency. So somebody calls me up and they're like, oh man, I really need someone to get on set last minute. Just need somebody there. I don't know what's going on, but like, it's just like everybody keeps dropping out. It's a hard day for me, man. Can you just get someone over here?
Oh, Jesus. Who was it?
And I was like, well, we got somebody available. Can you just tell me what we're doing? Because it was weird because, when you work on film and television, you think that you should know. A lot of times people actually just show up and they don't know what's going to be filmed.
Right.
But like, I was like, something feels weird about this.
Just when it's something like that too, that is very specific.
Just like, what are we filming here?
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out it was Ivanka Trump, and she was doing some weird, shady ass shit with the Saudis, and nobody wanted to be a part of that because they could smell the blood diamonds and they could smell the blood for oil, and they didn't want to be part of it. And you know what? I just said, maybe you should tell people the reason they're getting mad at you is because you're bait and switching them. Tell them who it's for. If they want to work for her, they'll work for her. But
you'll find people who will gladly do it. Right?
Sure, exactly. But don't bait and switch people. That's dishonest. But they were ashamed. And you know what? Just a few months later, Mohammed bin Salman ordered the death of Jamal Khashoggi. And then just a few years after that, her husband took a $2 billion payout from MDS to whitewash the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. So you look at, people didn't want to be associated with murderers.
Right. That also makes me hopeful, because I love to see other business people saying, no, money is not everything. No, we're not going to do that.
You can't, you do have to draw the line somewhere. Like, I wish more of corporate America had drawn lines, moral lines, but it is very illuminating to see where people stand now.
Because it's the individuals versus the corporation. Corporations have no souls. Corporations can't be tried as a criminal. I mean, there's just so many issues. And instead of rehashing it, I'm going to tell my audience, go back and listen to the final bonus episode of season 2. And you'll find out that Corey has several ties to the Kushner family. And there's just a little Easter egg for you there. Where can people go to find out more about Silver Sound?
They can come to Silver Sound. Here we are filming at Silver Sound. Come to Silver Sound. Give us your money. Record your video podcast like this one here. I'm hoping to convince Matt to do a partnership with Frame One and Silver Sound. We'll see how that goes. Give us your audio, but we do audio storytelling. We've been around 20 years because we do everything audio, and it's from video games to virtual experiences to live sound to live streaming. We have people who are experienced across the gamut. So just reliable, professional, smart, fast.
URLs.
www.silversound.us.
I'd like to end episodes of season 3 with a slightly off-topic question that still ties in. And so my final question for you is, favorite New York moment?
I'll just tell you, it's not my favorite New York moment, but it is one that stands out as just like, well, that's a New York moment. I'm in my very early 20s, and I live in the East Village in this, like, I think it's like maybe it was an 8x8 room or a 10x10 room, no windows, had the hot water for the pipe building running through it. So it was always like 1,000,000 degrees, always smelled kind of like poop. And so I got out a lot, and I was sitting there on the bench, on the East River, and there's like a lot of construction or whatever. And we're looking out, and we're just like, are those two people just like having sex like right over there? And we're just like, oh yeah, they are. And then we look over, and there's just like 2 other people hanging out on the other bench and then on the street. And we just realized there's just like 10 of us, like 10 different couples, like trying to enjoy the East River. And there's just like a couple just banging it out, like right in the middle of everywhere on one of the benches. And we're just like, how about that?
Well, you know what? You might see more of that, because they're going to be like, Universal 3K, buddy!
It was just that was a very New York. I wouldn't say it's my favorite New York moment,
but that's
it's a very
good story.
But can I tell you,
the podcast appreciates
But actually, let me take that off though. Let me give you my favorite New York moment.
But can I still use that one in the edit?
You can if you want.
But I'll still use this one.
Okay, but this one's actually my favorite New York moment. My favorite New York moment is I'm going down to visit my friend, and he's like, "Look, man, you gotta come to Ditmas Park." I'm like, it's all the way in South Brooklyn, man. And, at this point, there weren't as many bike lanes, and it's kind of pain. You can't go across Brooklyn very easily. And I'm like, he's like, you got to go to Lahori Chili. You got to go to Lahori Chili. It's 24/7. It's amazing. And long story short, my friend goes to Little Hurry Chili. She takes her first bite and immediately goes into labor.
It was that good.
and it just gets, it's like, well, I'm gonna go have my kid now. And that was a pretty fun New York moment.
One was about making babies, one was about having babies. Perfection.
Yeah.
Corey, thank you so much for not only hosting us and helping us produce this episode, but for sharing your stories and your candor. And this is why you and I can't have short phone calls, and because they always go like this. And I love when you and I get time to sit down and chat. So thank you for doing this. Thank you to your team for helping us with the field interviews.
Oh, Ivan, Tom.
Yeah.
Shout them both out. Yeah. Ivan in particular.
Yeah, your guys, your crew here is great, and I love me some good audio nerds, because those are my people, man. Those are my people. And thank all of you who went out and voted, regardless of how you voted or where you voted. Thank you for reminding the government that they work for us. Thank you for tuning in for another episode, and let's all be hopeful together for what the future may hold, regardless of where you live. Let's all hold on to that hope, and we'll see you next time.
We just went there. Now you can go to thegoingtherepodcast.com for links to all the podcast platforms, our socials, and of course, YouTube. While you're at it, give us a rating, share with a friend, and subscribe.
This podcast is brought to you in part by its host and Frame One Media, in association with Kaylee Williams, Joe Calley, and Bobby Thomas.